8th Board of Health
I
meeting?
do so. I move to open the April 8th, 2013 Board of Health meeting.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And present are
Susan Elwell.
John Melcher.
Charlie Costello, Chairman.
Frank Marcus.
Speak up, Frank.
Yep.
And let's see, we have a fairly interesting agenda tonight, and very interesting at the beginning with Jack Card from our Northeast Mosquito Control District to discuss our 2013 management plan and to communicate how we're going to work through the season in a good way, protecting the public and getting the information out to the people. So who's going to do the speaking? Do you fellas want to come up?
Sure.
Sit at the table with us? Yeah, why don't you pull a chair? You're welcome to sit
Yes.
right with us if you'd like. It's more of a conversation. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, how many years has Raleigh participated in your district? I know it predates Jack's time, but
I started in '76, and you were in then. And then during the Proposition 2.5 years, I think Raleigh dropped out with a lot of communities. We lost about half our communities when that happened. And then slowly, year by year, towns started to come back.
Mhm.
And at this point in time, we have 32 communities in the district. We have the city of Lawrence, Essex, Gloucester, and Rockport that don't participate, but we have everyone else. We would like to see, not for financial reasons, no gain of us, it just means more work, but we would like to see all the cities in the district belong to the program so that we don't, for lack of a better word, have gaps. Particularly while we have virus issues. The old days of the nuisance control, your mosquitoes go next door and vice versa. But it's a lot more serious nowadays with virus. The mosquitoes have no boundaries.
can I just stop for a second just to make sure? Is this volume high enough, Chris, for your microphones? Okay, sorry.
The situation with mosquitoes in, say, Essex and Gloucester in particular, not as much in Rockport, but Essex and Gloucester, salt marsh mosquitoes. And if you all remember before we did the aerial applications on the salt marsh, how it was here. That's a mosquito that can travel up to 20 miles. We have 22,000 acres of salt marsh in Essex County. We have, we approximately rate that at about a third of that to be possible mosquito habitat. The reason why I say that is the marsh is pretty well tapered from the creeks or the ocean to the upland, and then it has somewhat of a plateau. On that plateau, that upper third is basically where you would find mosquito breeding. Reason for that is it doesn't get the tidal flush, the everyday tidal flush that the rest of the marsh gets. And during those high run tides or storm tides that you get every month, sometimes twice a month, water gets up into that plateau. If there isn't enough fish up in there, predatory fish, or if that water stays there long enough and doesn't dry back, then we get a brood of mosquitoes. Out of a 10-inch pie plate, if you figure we have about 7,000 acres of salt marsh in this area that could possibly breed, we've trapped over 3,000 mosquitoes out of the size of a paper plate by putting a trap over the mosquito larvae that are right there. So in other words, if I'm out of the marsh and I see mosquito larvae there, I put a trap right there. As those mosquito larvae hatch and come up, we collect them. Trapped over 3,000 mosquitoes out of that size of a paper plate. That's potential 7,000 acres, that's a lot of mosquitoes. And if you do the math, about half of those 3,000 mosquitoes are females. And if you figure they're gonna lay a few hundred eggs maybe more in their lifespan. Could be a couple weeks, it could be a month, depending on the weather conditions. They bite during the day, they travel up to 20 miles, they go all the way through our county and all the way back. That's a lot of mosquitoes. Now, at this point in time, the salt marsh mosquitoes are not considered a prime vector, which, good. They have been known, it has been known to isolate virus in those mosquitoes. But right now, they're not focused on as a player. We do send some of those for testing, just to make sure. The problem is when you have virus and you have a lot of mosquitoes, you have a problem, because you never know how that intermingling is going to happen. There's two species of mosquitoes. That one is the prime vector, and it keeps the cycle of triple E going with the mosquitoes and the birds. It's a mosquito that likes cedar swamps, red maple swamps. It lives under the trees and it crypts under the ground. We have nothing at this point in time, no technique and no material at this time to larvicide those. So the only control we have of those mosquitoes to try and break that cycle between the birds is to adulticide, whether it be with the truck spraying that we do, or in the case of down the South Shore with planes.
What's the species of
Cedar melanora.
and how do you, oh, that's the melanora.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
There's another species which a lot of communities in our area have, and we're finding them not in just large swamp areas, but actually some smaller areas as well. We're picking up a lot of this type of mosquito. It's perturbans, which we consider the cattail mosquito. And I think maybe I had mentioned this to you before. This is the type of mosquito that attaches itself to the root of the plant, and it breathes through the plant. It is another species, and this is a prime vector for virus, to transmit virus, but it's a mosquito that we cannot larvicide as well. It attaches under the plants, under that mat that floats in a wetland area, and there's nothing that we have that we can get under there that's going to larvicide that. So when those mosquitoes come out, all we have is the adulticide. And we have towns like Linfield that are right along the Saugus River, right in the Colonial, where the Colonial used to be. Massive cattail habitat. When those mosquitoes come out, there's nothing we can do but spray with the truck. We like to do, we have an IPM approach with what we do. We try and do source reduction, larviciding. We treat the catch basins for the Culex mosquitoes that transmit West Nile virus. We try and do all these things. It's usually the spraying that is the last effort. That's all we have left. And right now, what we're trying to do is focus on those species of mosquitoes that are the problem. We do the aerial larviciding for the salt marsh mosquitoes, and we get very good control. But
And that's early season, right? Is that June?
It's through the
July?
season. We could do one tomorrow. There's that many larvae out in the salt marsh right now. But this time of year when the water's cold, they take a lot longer to develop. So we give them a little bit longer because maybe we've got fish predation in there. If we don't have any more rain, things are drying up pretty fast. We may lose that water out there. It may dry back and they'll die. So we kind of watch it. We have a lot longer window of opportunity to treat them. When the water warms up, they can go from an egg to an adult in less than a week. So we have, maybe out of that week, we have maybe 2 windows, 2 days or so as an opportunity to get that material when they're at the stage where they're going to feed on it. We're very successful. If you take and put all the different criteria on how you have to do this on a piece of paper, you'd say you'd never be able to do it. Because Mother Nature throws you all kinds of curves. Lots of issues why we can't spray if it's wet, windy, all kinds of different things. But we end up getting it done. And that's a tribute to the people that we have and the way we go about doing it. It's taken us years to fine tune it. We've actually got to the point where we've changed the formula so that we're actually putting out less material and getting more into the helicopter so our flight time is less. So we keep the cost down as best we can, and we still get in the range of anywhere from 90 to 100% sometimes, depending on a given application, which is very good. So we're constantly looking at things, trying to do it better, but sometimes if it's not broke, you don't fix it. You know, and with the aerial application, we're doing very well. It's hard to say now with the different other things, the adulticide, we have mosquitoes that seem to be changing, their habits, their habitats are changing. They're constantly ahead of us, we have to constantly keep up. We have some virus issues. This was the first year that we had mosquito pools testing positive for both Triple E and West Nile. We have certain species of mosquitoes that are crossing over into different habitats. We don't know why. On the horizon, there's other viruses that may show up here or they may not. We're trying to test for them, so if they do come, we know before they get here or before we have a problem. And as always, our budget issue is our budget. Well, last year we asked for a 5% increase in the budget. We asked the state for that. We had to do that. We hadn't had an increase since 2004. And so we had to kind of balance what we could do. We asked for 5%. With the situation with Triple E last year, we thought that we might have to ask for more this year to combat that issue. But the commission wanted to hold the line, so we were level funded this year. And we're going to do the best we can with what we have. Last year, speaking of Triple E, was the first year we've had human cases. We had 2 human cases here.
Here, meaning in your district?
In our
Yeah,
district.
Yeah.
We had 1 in Amesbury and 1 in Georgetown. Previous to this, we always thought that it would come up from the south. South Shore always had Triple E. The cycles for Triple E have changed. It used to be every 10 years it would rear its head for a few years and then it would go away. It seems like it's every year now, and it's pretty widespread throughout the state. It's not just on the South Shore anymore.
Is this, they're changing, is this resistance to spray that makes them change?
No, I think
I think it's not cut in stone, but a lot of researchers are starting to think that this might be a reflection of climate change. The increased temperatures are affecting distribution of the animals that they feed on, the weather patterns, which affects where they're breeding. Increased temperatures will have not only the mosquitoes develop more quickly, but the virus to develop quick enough so that they can move into the mosquito's mouth parts and ready to be injected at a faster rate. So the evidence seems to be indicating that there is some influence on global change on what we're seeing, because nothing else seems to explain this. I mean, we've had here in Essex County, even I was confounded with last year because we had West Nile, which I figured that was going to be a problem due to the drought and the heat. The mosquitoes that usually do well they survive very well under those conditions. They thrive.
that particular Culex.
Yeah, Culex mosquitoes. Though surprisingly, and happily so, the numbers of Culex mosquitoes in Essex County overall actually declined. And I like to think, and again, I can't prove it directly, but my sense is that our catch basin treatment program seemed to have an impact there. So I was excited about that, and since we had a drought, the Triple E vector, Culecidum melanura, their numbers were very low throughout most of the year. And so I said to myself, well, we're not going to see Triple E up here. Well, I was surprised when it happened, when Triple E first appeared in Linfield and began to sort of migrate in this area. And it turns out that there were some locations where the mosquito vector was just as abundant as previous years, which begs the question, how can that be if there's a drought and all their habitats are drying up? And the only answer I can come up, and again, it's just an educated guess, is that these particular wetland areas are somehow able to stay wet during these droughts, which it could be either due to changes in drainage due to construction, or my pet theory is beaver impoundments. so that they're creating more habitat for these mosquitoes, and now you have more of them available to pick up the Tripoli virus from migrating birds, because birds, who are the ones that are carrying the virus from area to area, great expanses, they're looking for wetlands to roost in. And since in a drought you have fewer of them, they're going to congregate more in the few areas of there, and that's where the mosquitoes are. And that's why we think that the cycling and amplification in Essex County is going on. So if that's what's happening, I mean, I don't know how we can even predict what's going to happen this year.
Just as an aside, in my day job, I map natural resources. And I've recently completed a remapping of the state's wetlands.
Mhm.
And as part of that mapping, I worked in a methodology that coded all of the beaver impoundments that have been created, where wetlands have been increased and to some extent destroyed because of the flooding. Would you be interested in me supplying you that digital information for your mapping?
Yeah.
And then you might be able to work a study in the whole district
Definitely.
and find a correlation between, and it might be a good piece of research.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay, so
Definitely.
I'll be in touch with you.
Oh, okay.
We did some research back a few years ago, just an in-house study, because we were concerned we were seeing different species of mosquitoes and some changes. And we were thinking at that time, because of the influx of the beaver and the wetlands, that maybe that was a key. Also looking at the beaver lodges themselves as an overwintering area for mosquitoes. So we did some research. What we found was we did get some breeding around the lodges and around some of the edges and the overflow areas. Some of the beaver dams were deep enough that they didn't put up the types of mosquitoes that we were kind of looking for. At the shallow areas, you would find them, are the areas that flooded back into a pine wooded area or something, the little pockets, the real shallow type areas. We would find some breeding. But we don't have enough money to do a lot of research. So we have to kind of, hopefully that there's other research being done out there to help.
So
We
that's
have
big.
contacts throughout the country, throughout the world basically. And in a meeting that I went to this winter in New Jersey for the American Mosquito Control Association, I talked with some people in Germany, and they were having the same problems with cattails and phragmites that we have. Not being able to control the mosquitoes that get in there, not being able to control the invasive vegetation that's blocking up some of the natural drainage patterns and things like that. So we're not alone. I mean, it's what we do is worldwide. Fortunately, we have, I'd like to say, better opportunities of control than some countries have. But everyone's working at kind of the same thing.
So you've spoken now for a little over half of the time we have, and we can take as much time as you want, but you've spoken about the challenge and the problem. Let's take some time to talk about our solution and the way we protect the public and how we work together.
In Raleigh, as in every community, we have a management plan. We have a vector management plan, which is more regional, and then we have a best management plan for each town, which is, since the virus issue, has been something that we talk to the Board of Health about. In some towns, the mayor is included in decisions that are made in that management plan. Otherwise, it's us giving you information, recommendations, suggestions, and having you make the decisions on how you want us to proceed with your mosquito control. There's a lot of basics, the surveillance, the larviciding, the water management, all the aspects of the different things that we do, which most towns will subscribe to. One of the issues that some towns have is with the adulticiding, spraying for the adult mosquitoes. And what I've tried to do this year is we're going to try and get all the management plans on our website, because we do get a lot of calls from people not knowing what goes on in my town or how is my town approaching this and that. So we're going to try and put those on the website. And my thought this year was also to adjust the management plans to read what the specific towns want to do in the case of having to do adulticiding for virus. Some towns have taken up a protocol that if we find the data supports a spray, whether it be a targeted spray or a town-wide spray, whether the data is from what we find in town or along your border, that the town knows how it wants to approach that when we get the data, say on Friday, it could be on Wednesday, it could be information that Esteban and I will call you on, that we're seeing a spike in species in a certain town or a certain area. And we think it might behoove us to do something now, and maybe do a targeted spray around that area to knock those mosquitoes down before we start to pick up the virus. Or we may just call you and say, you know, this is something we want to talk about. You might want to alert the public that we have an increase, that they might want to think about maybe limiting their nighttime activities. We're not regulatory, we can't tell you what to do, but we can suggest, we can give you the information and you can make the decisions. Now, the protocols, for example, last year we had issues with Triple E. In some communities, when I talk to the Board of Health, they say, do it. They'll notify, whether it be reverse 911 or cable or however they're going to do the notification. They'll notify then and we proceed. Other towns want to have a Board of Health meeting and say, what do we want to do next? Do we want to approve spraying or targeted? Do we want to look at a map, whatever? What I'm trying to project to everyone this year is, and I sent this out in an email before, is not to think about if you're going to have virus, what you're going to do. Think about now when you have it, because you're probably going to have it. And you want to make sure that you folks know what you might want to do, and that the residents know what could happen and what you're going to take for an action. Because when it's August 5th and we get a report that we have Triple E here, it could be a human case and we could be 3 weeks late because we don't know till about 2 or 3 weeks after. Or it could be just that we're getting a spike in the turbines, or we've got some virus issues. And it could be just on the border like it was last year in Newbury. And we think that maybe we should do a targeted spray there. We want to react. I'd like to react with everyone within 24 to 48 hours. I know that puts a lot of pressure on towns to get notifications out. Problem is, and if we run into this again this year, it's going to be the same. We were getting calls for virus, and before a town would have a meeting and react, we had already bypassed them and we have to go to someone else. I don't want to not be able to provide you with services that you want, but if we can't react fast enough, it might be too late when you do decide to do something. We've moved on to other things, and again, Mother Nature tells us when we can do this. Our adulticiding events have to be in the evening, after dark, after sunset. They have to be when the temperature is right. Wind conditions have to be right. If we apply the material and there's no mosquitoes, it's useless. So we have to do it when the mosquitoes are active. Not all species of mosquitoes will be active at a certain time of night. So the earlier we can go out, for most species, the better. Because if you wait till 2 in the morning, you may get some species, but you're not going to get maybe the ones that you're targeting. That's how specific we have to be, because we're trying to, again, target certain species, certain habitats, certain areas. So that window of opportunity is critical. And I don't mean to put pressure on the towns. It's just that with virus now, we're in the loop. We're not outside it like we used to be. We need to respond as fast as we can, if that's what you want to do. Some towns don't want to do any spraying. So it really depends, again, on your management plan and how you want to approach that. I have Frank's number, he has mine. I believe you have my number. So in a lot of towns, on Friday, everyone goes. Go to the vacation, the camps, things. As long as there's someone here who can make the call, because I can't do anything without your approval. As long as there's someone that's here who the contact person is, that we can communicate with if there's a problem. And sometimes there isn't a problem, it's just that we want to communicate with you because there's a little rumbling coming, and we want to make sure you know that there may be something down the road and kind of get everyone on the same page and ready to go, you know.
Well, we've had a good working relationship with your organization before with Walter, and Frank knows this is his real #1 priority job from May to November, and we're sensitive to the fields, the playing fields, and the school issue, which brings in a whole different bit of jurisdiction and all. And I know I can speak for the board when I say we do want to work together for a fast communication system through Frank during business hours, to me during non-business times, but just so we can act and take advantage of your expertise when it's needed. What's the best notification system from your experience to get the word out to the public? I mean, in the old days, we had our answering machine. Well, you know, that's gone. Is it the reverse phone call, or is that shouldn't be used so much that it's overused, or?
Well, it really depends on the town, because everyone has different things, whether it be the cable, reverse 911. Some of them have different connected through the schools and things like that. And sometimes it could be just something in the newspaper, the local newspaper. Last year I started sending, sometimes a weekly or bi-weekly or whatever, information out to the boards of health on what was happening. I'm going to try and do that pretty much on a regular basis if time allows this year, because what it does, and by me explaining some things to the boards of health, possibly you can use that in your message out to the public that, these things are happening in these areas, or where there's a concern that there's an increase in certain mosquitoes.
Frank's used that a lot. Yeah.
The issue is, and we mentioned treating catch basins for QLEC, we can't be in everyone's backyard. So we need the residents to kind of scout out their own property and take care of some of those things as well. We treat the catch basins, but the gutters on the house, the bird baths, the kids' toys, mosquitoes can breed in a bottle cap. I have about 10 people to cover 32 towns, so I can't be everywhere. So we kind of rely on the residents too. And also, as we go through the summer, we never really get complacent because we're always doing this talking. But a lot of people, as you say, if you do reverse 911, people may get complacent after a while, and they may not pay attention to those warnings. Or they may think that just because we sprayed that everything's okay. We did the fields, now we can play on them. That isn't always the case. We can only control a certain amount of mosquitoes. We're just trying to knock the risk of people getting the virus down. We're not going to get all the mosquitoes. It only takes one mosquito. So by kind of reassuring people and notifying them, they still need to take their personal protection.
I think that's really
don't let their guard
important.
down.
That's
you know,
really
so.
important that people protect themselves and their children.
I use the issue of the ticks. There's nothing we can really do for ticks right now.
No.
So people have to think about that themselves. And you don't have to be in the woods. You can be right across the street. You can get ticks, anywhere. So, and you can get them all year long. So.
And this season, the real spring season has started early this year, so that I'm getting 3 or 4 off my dog
Me too.
every day.
Yep.
And what about greenheads? You don't do anything about greenheads.
We do.
Oh, you do?
Greenheads is a separate situation. You folks are in for mosquito control.
Yep.
Years ago, you were also part of the greenhead program. Some towns have dropped out of that due to budget reasons or whatever. It's a separate appropriation, and what we do is we charge by the greenhead trap. We put the traps out, we take them in, we maintain them every year. It's kind of a cycle. You can pay for as many as you want. and we will put them out and take care of them for you. As you remember, years ago, you used to be in the program. We used to put them down at the landing and lots of other places along Route 1 and everything. And when the town dropped out, they dropped out of that as well. That could be something that you want to get back into, and we certainly want to talk to you about that. One of the things that's changed over the years is we're not making the wooden ones anymore. Remember those square blocks?
The green ones.
We're phasing, we still maintain the ones we have, but when they get to the point we can't fix them anymore, then we discard them. And what we use now is plastic. We reuse the barrels from when we do the air spray, plastic barrels, 30-gallon drums. We cut them up, we reuse them, we make the green head traps out of them now. They last a lot longer, they're much lighter, they catch just as many green heads. And when you folks were in, we used to use the black color,
Yeah,
color to
black.
radiate the heat. The green heads are very sensitive to heat, similar to the cows and things and the horses out there. And we started to, quite a few years ago, use a material called Octanol. It was a synthetic material made to replicate ox breath. They found that a lot of flies would go to oxen,
Right.
so it's a material, it smells like pickle juice. But it's also the material when you buy like a bug light or a mosquito magnet or something like that. It's a little thing that comes as the attractant for those bug traps. We use a different commercial grade of it, but we put one of those in each of the traps. With that trap baited, it's still black, but with it baited, we get 3 times as many in a baited trap than we used to in the black.
Mm.
So we've found that we've been able to, in some cases, some towns put fewer traps out, but we're still getting just as good control. So that's an option for Raleigh. I know we have put some before, and we still do, because we put traps in Ipswich, and we'll put them on the Ipswich side of the river. So some people might think, well, there's some down at the landing. Well, you're getting a little bit of that, control, but they're not on the Raleigh property, they're on Ipswich property.
Is there a way to describe the success or the improvement that traps in an area do? Is there any way to define it?
When you get bit by a greenhead, it hurts.
Oh, I know.
You only need one.
And, as far as numbers, and we have this issue with mosquitoes, it's hard to say because every year is going to be different. We have years when there's not that many greenheads. We have years when it's really bad. Really depends on the weather, what the year previous, what the winter was.
In the tide cycle?
The greenhead larvae and in the fall, they go from an egg to a larva, they burrow down into the sod. They develop all year long in that sod, and then in the summertime, right around 4th of July, out they come. So if something disturbs them in the oviposition in the fall, or when they're emerging, if we have a high run tide coinciding with their emergence, sometimes they're a little late, and then other times they're a little early. It really depends on what's going on. But the best way, people ask us all the time, it's like, if you get bit by 50 mosquitoes, is that worse than 100? We don't know. So one greenhead to some people is too much. So balancing the numbers, you could ask someone who's been here for years, and we've done mosquito greenhead control, maybe someone in Newbury where they haven't stopped this, they might say it's not, we make it 1 or 2 days out of the season that's bad. It's not like it used to be. Some of the farmers and people that had cattle and things. The best way is to walk out on the marsh. You might want to wait till after the season, as opposed to going out there in the middle of July. But if you go out late in the season when they're pretty much done, and take a look at how many flies are in that trap. Those are female flies. And if you take those female flies, it could be thousands in that trap, and you take away those hundreds of eggs that they were going to lay for the next year, think of it that way.
Mhm.
It's pretty appealing at that point, because you've really put in
Immobilized.
And it's a
numbers.
long-term, if you opt in, you want to stay in.
Similar to mosquito control.
Yeah.
It's a process. It's when a town that has been in comes back in, we generally, most of the guys that have been here long enough can remember the historical places where the problem areas were. A lot of things change over the years. There's places that we used to treat every year, now there's a house there. I don't know how they put a cellar in there, but they got a house there, you know? So a lot of times it's easier that way, but if it's a town that we don't know, it takes a while to get a handle onto what's going on in that town. And a new town that comes in, we generally put more traps up because we want to find a good historical location that's going to give us the best idea of what goes on in that town. And then after 2 or 3 years, we'll wean back and have just that one trap. You know, set out extras here and there like we do in every town when we get virus to see if it's widespread or localized. But it takes a while to build up that information, that database on that town. And then hopefully they stay in because it's one of those things. If you can get the mosquitoes down this year, there's less eggs for next year, you know, and that type of thing. Now, with greenheads, you know, it's somewhat of a year-to-year type of thing. With mosquitoes, the eggs can lay dormant for years. So if you have a wet year that puts up a lot of habitat, they can lay eggs in that habitat. That could be dry for years until you get another wet year, and that's wet, and bingo. So, a little different animal. But, you know, we kind of approach it. There's nothing else we can do for greenheads other than those traps. No chemical, no larviciding, no water management, unless we're going to flood the marsh. But, you know, Mother Nature does that on its own. We just...
They do leave very quickly. I mean, when that tide comes,
Yeah.
it's almost immediate relief.
Yep. If you go on a hot day and you want to go to the beach without greenheads, you want to go and leave the beach about 10 o'clock and let everybody else get bit all day long. And then go back later on. Because the greenheads, it's funny. People say, well, what's the best way to avoid the greenheads? Well, I'll go there on a nice day. Go on a cloudy day, but you don't want to do that. On a cloudy day, the greenheads won't be out. They don't like the cloud. If you're a sunny day and you have one cloud go over, well, when that cloud goes over, the greenheads will go down into the grass and they'll wait there till the sun comes out and then up they'll go. Now, when we're early season, probably mid-June to the last part of June, just before the greenheads come out, we generally see them on the salt marsh. They're not biting, but during the midday when it's warm, not a lot of wind, they'll be out and they just hover on top of the grass. And they all change as the wind changes. It's quite a thing to sit and watch because it's comfortable because they're not biting. But be careful because sooner or later, it's just like a light switch. Whether it's the 4th of July, the 3rd of July, or the 6th of July, someone's going to turn that switch and they're just going to take off. And that's what happens. It's just like night and day. One day there's nothing, the next day you go to the beach and they're there. So it's interesting to watch them. It's almost like they hatch and they build up in numbers. They do their mating thing. And the other thing about greenheads, it's different from mosquitoes. When mosquitoes come out, the females have to get a blood meal to reproduce. That's protein for the egg. Mr. Bunn can talk about this if you want to. So when a mosquito bites you, it might be the first time. But when a greenhead bites you, it's the second time. Because they have enough protein in their development so that the females come out, mate, lay a batch of eggs. When they bite you, it's a second, a third, a fourth batch. So they've already laid eggs, they've already protected the species, now they're coming. But whereas the mosquitoes, they have to take a blood meal first before they lay a batch. So if you can smack them, then, you know, you've saved, you know, a lot of people some.
Well, we might be interested in talking to you about that. Why don't you get in touch soon before the season gets real busy, so at least we get an idea of what it might cost to re-participate.
The other thing too is we might have to make some, but, you know, we're willing to, we have a few extras anyways, we could get started and, you know, go from there. You know, it's a situation where it's a separate appropriation. It's an account that we've had for years, similar to our salt marsh account. If you remember way back when we used to clean all the ditches, that was a situation where that could be under separate appropriation, or money would go into that account for that. It's just an old way of, you know, because we have salt marsh here and because it's still being hayed, it's still under an agricultural umbrella or whatever, that we always have and probably always will be part of that maintenance program. Obviously, we went through years where we used to do ditching, and then we went to open marsh water management, which is a total reversal. And now the state wants us, and the feds, I guess, want us to go back the other way. So
Hmm.
I've been here too long, because things keep coming around, you know. And,
Yep.
so it's a sign of time to, you know, you've been around for a while, you gotta get out. But we've kind of gone full cycle, and now, I guess, because of the rise in sea level, the idea is to drain the marsh, get the salt pans and ponds off the marsh, because they're starting to, I guess they feel that they're subsiding the marsh, and it's not accruing fast enough to keep up with sea level. So we don't do open marsh as we used to. We still do salt marsh maintenance, if that's a situation that needs to be done. We look at that too because of the aerial larviciding we do. In some cases, a small section of marsh could be eliminated from the spray program if we could get the dishes flowing and things like that. It's hard for us to put anything new in, but we can maintain what was existing out there. And with that said too, the water management, the freshwater work that we used to do, we still have some exemptions, but the regulatory agencies have really tightened up on what and how much we can do. In some cases, it's not financially available for all the work that has to be done to do a job. But we still do a lot of handwork, and any mechanized equipment on a larger scale, we still take under advisement if the town wants to petition us to look at a job. It might be something we can do, might be something that's going to cost extra money, or it might be something that's going to take a permit. It's hard to tell. There's a lot of different issues involved. Not as easy as it was years ago. Unfortunately, a lot of the paperwork and time is costly, and you can't do as much as you would like to do, but that's the way it is nowadays. So.
Well, we thank you for your presentation.
pleasure.
Yes.
And does anyone have any other questions? We're pleased with your,
We have a fee schedule for the green thing available?
yeah, you're gonna
Yeah,
get back to us
yeah.
on what it might cost to see if we could swing it. I'd be very interested in getting that going again. And we'll be in discussion about the type of wording we want in these trigger mechanisms for
Yeah.
alerts and spot issues, treatments that
Right.
you want to take.
Right, it doesn't, it's more of a guide. As you know, you can change that at any time depending on what the situations, what situations might arise. But it's a guide to use so that, you know, everyone knows what's happening and why. And sometimes it's hard to really get it down to, well, if we have 2 mosquitoes or just 3 mosquitoes, because it's Mother Nature and it's not that specific. And if you wait too long and wait for certain triggers, sometimes it's going to be too late too. So it's more of a guide that can be adjusted and see how the season goes. And hopefully we don't have to do anything like we had to do last year. That was a challenging year for us, and we're not looking forward to have to do that, but we will do what we have to do. The communities are, this is a voluntary program. Towns opt into this on their own, and the money comes from the towns and cities off their cherry sheet assessment. So our responsibility is to you, and we try and do what you want, what you need, and how you want it done. Hence the management plan. So we take our direction from you.
And we rely on your expertise. And the main word is threat. When you detect a threat, or Esteban does with his science, and you report back to us, then we act with you to take care of the threat. That's what, we don't care about the numbers or
Yeah.
you know, we rely on your
No, I
expertise.
understand. See, one of the things too that happened to us last year, and it's happened other places, is that, and sometimes with human cases, we don't get word like, you know, when we collect our samples, we collect them on, say, Monday and Wednesday, we know on Friday. We may not know of a human case till 2 or 3 weeks down the road, which doesn't, we're already behind the 8 ball. So it makes it very difficult to catch up sometimes.
Yeah,
So
but
at
then
that-
it's already gone. It's already there, been there.
It's
gone.
there, we don't know how widespread, you know, we try and respond with
Yeah.
trapping to see, you know, but again, we're picking up maybe, when we do our pools and send them in to Boston, it could be a pool of 5, it could be a pool of 50. We don't know how many were positive, we just know that the pool was positive. But if we send a sample of 5 and it comes back positive,
Yeah,
that's at least 1 out of 5.
20%.
Yeah.
And the odds, if you play any kind of, if you're a gambler, 1 in 5 is much better than 1 out of 100.
Mhm.
But again, it could be 100 in a pool, and it comes out positive, it could have been 100, it could have been 50, we don't know. I don't know that we will ever be able to, the way that the samples are done now, unless you do 1 mosquito at a time.
And that state lab sampling system works well for you? It's as quick as it can be?
They've done a lot of changes over the years to make it more, to expedite it and make it as quick as possible. What we're working at now is to make sure that we can maximize the amount of pools we send, because we collect twice a week. We don't just collect once a week. So I have 32 towns, and that's 32 historical trap sites. And each trap site is a CO2 trap, which collects a certain type of mosquitoes, a gravid trap, which collects Culex mosquitoes, the West Nile type. And in some towns, we have resting boxes, which collect the Culiceta melanura. So I have 32 towns. There's 2 traps at each site, that's 64, collected twice a week. And then all the extra trapping that we do if we have virus, and all the extra trapping that we do for the resting boxes. All those pools have to be just by species. So when you do that, and they say we can only send 50 pools a week, it doesn't make it easy for us. So we're always asking to be able to submit more pools. Obviously, early in the season, we don't catch as many numbers of mosquitoes, depending on the year. But we want to use our surveillance program as information, as the data that drives our program. And so we're constantly wanting to do more. With that said, we're trying to get involved with being able to test some of the species that we can't send to the lab, because sometimes we're limited as to what species they want us to send. And we would like to test everything, because we're also looking for virus in non-vector species because of the crossover. We're also looking at other viruses. We want to detect if something is coming down that we're not looking for. So we're actually trying to work out something where we can send samples to another lab that may be able to give us other information. We may not get it in a timely fashion, but at least we'll have that information that we can possibly use at some time in the year, or look at it for the following year if we started to detect something. So
When you send a pool or several pools in to the state lab, just what do you send it in? A baggie or?
they have
what?
to be, each mosquito is identified. How many did you identify last year?
How many thousands? I think it came up to something like 61,000, something like that.
Each
last
one
year.
is identified
Yeah.
and sorted according to species, and sorted according to location of trap and date. And they have to be put into a vial.
Yeah, little plastic.
A little plastic,
Yeah. And it's got to be kept as cold as possible, so that, because once the mosquito is dead, the virus then begins to degrade, so you want to slow that degradation process as possible. So we will then, quote unquote, pull the mosquitoes into the vials, and then pack, you know, they're put into a box, you know, and they will have labels, and the label has the information where it was collected, when and how many are there, what species. And then last summer, Jack would then drive in, usually in the middle of the night, and drop them off at the state labs so that they can get started on the process of testing. Usually, it's within 24 hours. They've gotten very good at that. You know, they've worked out all the, quote unquote, all the bugs, and now they've got a process which they get the information, and the tests are very reliable. So, in other words, the opportunities of false positives are extremely remote.
Mhm.
So,
Sometimes, and I don't know if I discussed this with you particularly last year, but, and sometimes, you know, we get the data on Friday, usually,
Yeah.
depending on when we submit and all that. And sometimes we hear after that, because they had to rerun a test because they weren't sure. So we'd like to get that all at once, but it doesn't always happen.
Right.
You know, so sometimes there's like a mix-up. I'll call 3 or 4 towns, we'll have everything lined up, and then, you know, maybe 8 hours later, I'll get a call that we had something else, and I have to say, I can't do it, I gotta go here, because, you know, we've got problems other places, or, you know, at another level, so.
But with a helicopter, I would think you'd be able to just get around.
Ugh.
Your own helicopter.
Well, I know, we
Personal
talked about it, you know,
Yeah.
years ago, but it's just financially,
Right.
it's kind of a stress.
Yeah.
It's a jetpack.
And we're lucky to do what we do now. And again, we couldn't do it without the people that we have. We're very fortunate that way. And but we manage, and we're going to continue to do everything we can. So.
Well, we're pleased, and thank you for coming.
Our pleasure.
Yeah.
See you, and
Talk.
have a good year.
Yes.
okay.
Hopefully, we don't have to talk. How's that?
Yeah, wouldn't that be great?
We're
Thank you
doing our
very
workshop
much.
again
Yes.
on May 9th. So if you want to pop by,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, we'll send a second announcement
May 9th,
by
is it?
email. But yeah, May 9th at Endicott Park,
Yep.
as usual, so.
Okay.
All right, good.
Sure, sounds good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
See you.
Okay, have a good night.
You too. You can step right out here, sure.
Great, thanks. Wants to sign that?
Oh, yeah, please.
I think it's wonderful that they're here for televised night tonight. It's very complicated.
glasses on, I
I
can
don't
see
think
better.
people realize that.
Okay, let's see, we'll jump right to our first topic under our action items, is just to quickly look at our budget request for
Yeah.
next year.
Yep, actually in your packet there, you'll see a request. It's pretty straightforward. Give you a chance to find out that. I did meet with the selectmen and the finance committee, and they both did approve.
Any major changes?
No, actually, not really. Our expenses were level funded. On page 3, you'll see, basically we just across the board level funded everything. There's a breakdown there that you can take a look at.
Yep.
Again, very straightforward items that we look at every year. No capital equipment requests for next year.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move ahead with this.
Yeah, just a little, unless you have any questions, but it's pretty straightforward like in previous years. But like I said, unless you had any concerns.
I think ours is probably the simplest and the easiest.
Yeah, it's pretty, very straightforward.
Okay, well, and then have they set the date for town meeting?
Yeah, I believe it's May 6th.
May 6th, okay.
I believe,
All right, well, the next item is, any articles from our
Yes.
Board of Health?
yeah. And we do. We have our 2 standard articles that we do every year. One is to pay the debt service for the town septic loan program.
Yeah.
And the other one is our revolving fund, which gets put in with the other revolving funds. I did want to explain a little bit on the debt service to the town, that one there. That did go up from last year. And the reason being, We borrowed a total of $1,250,000 so far since we
From
started.
the state water pollution trust.
Correct.
For lending out to residents with their septic system.
That are in failure,
Yeah,
yes, yeah.
Okay.
Our first borrowing was, as you remember, $500,000, and then our second one was $750,000. Up until last year, we were just paying back on the first $500,000, which gave us a total of $25,939 to pay back every year.
Each year.
Each year, and that's been the last few years. Now this year, it's going to jump up to $53,439. And the reason for that is, out of the $750,000 that we borrowed, we drew down, well, first the $350,000, which will add an additional $17,500. And then we drew down, I believe it was last year, another $200,000, which will add another $10,000 to that. So adding those two together, which brings us to the $53,439, which we'll be asking for to transfer.
So how much does that leave in the bank, so to speak,
$200,000.
to loan out,
Oh, no.
to loan out to future applicants? How much have we got left in our,
Yeah, I'm gonna actually, the next topic about our quarterly report, I can
oh, all right,
go over that
okay,
number.
yep,
But similarly, we still have $200,000 that we haven't drawn down out of the $750,000.
okay.
So I was talking to the treasurer and the accountant. We're thinking maybe seeing how the spring goes, possibly the next few months, but we're going to see how things go.
Relative to what?
How many loans we get, any loans. Things usually pick up in the spring. So
But to do what? To maybe request more?
no, to draw down
Or
the
to
last
draw down the
200,000.
less
Yeah.
200?
And then depending on how things go the next year, we might want to think about next year borrowing more. We'll kind of see how things go with the numbers, but
There's always the possibility that the state might discontinue that program.
right.
So that we should be looking proactively to get the funds
Additional funds.
to be able to give out more loans
Mhm.
if in fact the program does get defunded at some point.
Right. Very true. Yeah, once we draw down that last two, we can see
Okay.
where we stand, the winter, and then
All right,
we can
so,
put up another article. So anyway, but in a nutshell, like I said, it will bring up to $53,439. And that's pretty much it. We processed 66 loans in total so far, so.
good, let's move on to item C.
Yep. Which is the quarterly report, which we are going to submit. It should be in your packet as well. Let's see a copy in there. This is our quarterly report for January through March, which is normally the slowest time of the year. You can see we have a beginning balance there. Oh, right.
On the right page.
Yeah, right up there.
Oh, this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
there
okay.
you go.
Yeah.
Yep, right there. It's, we have a beginning balance. Work with the accountant and the treasurer on this as well. We all work to put these numbers together. Beginning balance $422,511. We didn't draw down any money this past quarter. The $200,000 that we did draw down, that was previous quarterly report. So we didn't draw anything down there. The disbursements, we only had, during that quarter, we only had one loan. And you can see on page 2 on the schedule of disbursements where that went, was for one loan. There were just two payments there, installation and engineering, which is where that total there, the $20,214. Item D, we did not have any administrative costs this quarter, so that was 0, which left us with an ending balance of $402,297. Now, out of that ending balance that we have, that $402,000, keep in mind that we are going to have to subtract that $53,000.
Yeah, this year's
For the
payment, yeah.
payment, yeah. And we do have some loans coming up. Matter of fact, we have 3 in the queue. One actually we just signed a few days ago, and 2 more that we're waiting for paperwork to come in. So this is where I was saying we're going to really look at possibly drawing down that last $200,000 maybe in the next few months. But we'll see how things go.
All right.
And yes, like I said, it was normally we have a lot more disbursements, but during the winter it's usually a slow time. Any questions on that?
No?
No, we'll get that signed with the treasurer and the accountant, we'll get that
Yeah. So-
submitted.
And we submit those, what, quarterly reports?
Quarterly, yes, yeah.
And we met with the state this winter, and
We did.
everything's in order there with our paperwork and all.
Mhm.
Good.
Yeah.
So next up is, our white goods
Yeah.
sale
Yeah.
and light metal recycling events.
Yeah, we have a
Our
draft
annual,
flyer
yeah,
this is our annual, this is white goods, Freon mainly containing items that we're looking for, which also, we also take electronics at every event. We're just putting some final touches on it, but we're looking at May 11th, same usual time, 8:30 to 11:30 in the morning at the Highway Department. Like I said, we're just working on some final details, and we're gonna start advertising heavily, as we always do.
you've got the companies lined up to
Yeah.
pick up these things,
Yeah.
everything's,
Yeah, but like I said, we're just doing a few minor final touches, and we're pretty much ready to go. Same as previous years as far as what we'll be taking. Again, this is not our hazardous waste, this is hazardous waste day, this is different items. And of course, electronics.
and we're gonna have any volunteers to help
Yeah,
offload
I can
things?
talk to Highway Department, if
Okay.
you'd like, we can put some in place. I know a lot of these items are large, and
They're heavy
and
items.
they,
Mm.
it is great to have that.
Yeah,
Just a few extra set of hands to help out, sure. Yep.
all right. And when do we start putting up advertising for this?
We're gonna, as soon as I just
Finalize
find out a couple
everything?
more things, yeah, we're gonna start advertising.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll do the newspapers, the
I'll take a
websites.
stab.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
put them up around town. Yep, this the.
Do we use colored paper to put these up
Yeah.
to,
We do.
eye-catching paper? Good.
We do, yep.
Okay.
Takes care of that.
Let's see, so now we'll move to, we've got some minutes. Why don't we take a look at the minutes for the 14th of January? Have you had any interaction with Mr. Beauregard from the Healthy Communities Tobacco? Has there been any action in town? Have you haven't heard from him?
No, which is good news.
Yeah.
Which is good news. No, we haven't since we spoke last,
Right.
no. You know, he had explained last time what he was looking to do this year, and,
Yep.
but no, haven't heard anything.
Good, that's good
Which
news.
is good news, yes. And if we do, of course, we'll let you know.
Can, if you're in agreement, Susan, would you make a motion to accept the minutes?
Yes, just finished. I do make a motion that we accept the minutes of January 14th, 2013.
I second that, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So if you sign your, good. Glad our snowbird is back.
Yes,
Yeah.
wish I was glad to be back.
Did you miss us?
You don't want to hear the answer.
So are there bills for tonight?
Yes, I can pass those along. Really got that one, John.
Yep.
This is
We love in our ethical trainings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is that only,
yeah,
that's it?
just
Okay,
missing one there.
good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Minutes, our
Just
next
gonna pass.
meeting date.
Actually, we're gonna pass this one more down.
Let's see here. In May, now we've got the town meeting coming up.
Yeah.
Is there a need to meet before the town meeting, or could we do it after?
We, oh, it's after, well, it's up to you.
I think
We
it's
can-
earth shattering.
Yeah, why
Yeah,
don't we,
something-
why don't we
something.
schedule something, why don't we schedule for, let's see, everyone's gonna be around in the middle of May?
Absolutely.
Do we want it before the white goods sale or just after? Do you think, we've done this so many years, we don't
Yeah.
really need any
No,
last minute.
we don't need to tune up.
So why don't we do, if the 6th is the town meeting, then we do the 20th,
20th, okay.
okay?
Sure.
Okay.
We'll see how things come in and if we
Yeah.
If we
to
need
change it,
something.
Yeah, or need to change
Uh,
it. we can do that.
We'll change it.
Okay.
Okay. And concerns of the board? Any concerns of us? I haven't really
No.
picked anything up, or heard of anything. All set?
Also,
That's pretty much just attachments to the
Yeah.
bill. Okey-doke. Well then, moving along to our next section here, the office update.
Okay.
Why don't you take a lead on these, Frank?
Sure. We finished our ethics summary and training requirements. The first part was we had the board get a summary of the laws, and you signed an acknowledgement that you got it. That's all set, and then the second part was the training and testing part of it. It was an online training that everyone did. The board and staff has all been completed, and all the certificates have been turned into the town clerk, and we're all set. They were due April 1st, and so we got them all in.
Okay.
So that's completed.
Septic upgrade letter.
Oh, yeah, we'd just like to give you, whenever we issue an order letter, we'd just like to let you know about it. This was in reference to Mill River Apartments at 277 Havel Street. There's 3 buildings out there, and there are 2 systems. The system that have 2 of the buildings on it did come into failure. So we did issue an order letter out, and they did respond.
Did you do the site visit? Who was
Ed actually did the site visit.
Ed Gallagher, okay.
Yes, and he did,
Yeah.
there was evidence of breakout.
Yeah.
And so we immediately sent the letter out. And have been pumping it also, the representative from the engineering company did come by and picked up all the paperwork to start the process, so it's moving along, and should be taken care of.
how long do they have to do that?
Well, we didn't set a specific date to have it finished by. We just asked them to continue pumping, which they are doing.
So they pump on what type of schedule?
And we set it as an as-needed schedule, but we're watching it, and
But there's no evidence of breakout or
No.
anything, it's all contained?
yes, exactly.
But it was designed in 1997, it's not that old.
No, but it is an elderly housing unit, so,
Right.
unfortunately, they, with medications and things that go down,
Oh.
shortens the life a little bit, we think.
Oh, okay.
That's what we're
Or maybe,
guessing.
Because I thought, that's not that old.
No, it's not.
But the owner's cooperating?
Yes, yep, like I said, he did
who's
come
the
in.
owner?
I don't have the name.
It's okay.
It's not, yeah, it's not in town, but, like I said, the engineering company did come in and picked up all the applications and everything, and process has started.
So chances are they'll be
Oh, no, yeah,
putting in a new system soon?
yes, very soon, yes. Just, like I said, whenever we send one of these out, we just let the board know that.
Okay.
And since we met last, we finished our licensure for 2013. It's basically complete except for a few seasonal ones that we're waiting to come in.
For the restaurants and,
Yeah, the yearly ones are all been completed.
Mhm.
Like I said, just some seasonal ones in the summer that we're waiting on because they just haven't started yet. In total, we issued 51 food permits, and that includes, restaurants, stores, everything. Let's see, we issued 9 tobacco sale permits, 2 tanning licenses, 1 motel, a couple swimming pools, which we're going to be doing. As far as the summer camps go, we're waiting to hear if the Girl Scouts are going to do their summer camp this year. We're not sure yet. We're waiting to hear on that. And every year they usually have a golf camp at the golf course, but now with all the construction going
I
on,
doubt that'll happen.
it's probably not going to happen. But
Yeah.
they haven't said
They have camp
definitively
at
yes or
Pine
no.
Grove too, don't they?
Yes, that's falls under Triton.
Under the
we
Triton
don't-
School
yeah,
District, right.
Right. So we haven't heard definitively on the golf camp yet, but it doesn't look like they're going to be doing that this year. Septic installers, we issued 35 licenses. That's down from the last few years. We've had as many as 48, 49, but I think the economy has hurt a lot of these guys. A lot of them just haven't had the work and they've let them go, but still
Well,
plenty.
houses are going up for sale, let's move some stuff along.
Yeah, true.
That's great.
And then our septic haulers, we issued 18 licenses there. We did have 20, but again, the economy did a number on a couple of them. One was bought out and one just discontinued. So like I said, that's pretty much done for the year. We're just waiting on some seasonal things, like at Todd Farm and Farmers Market, all things like that. We're waiting on, but that's been completed.
All right, what, the last item on our agenda for tonight?
Yeah, it's just a FYI, the Raleigh Board of Health is sponsoring a advanced training workshop for Title V inspectors. Every year, different towns sponsor these events. Georgetown did a soil workshop earlier in the year. So a lot of the local Title V inspectors come, people from the state come, and they just give updates on any changes in regulations. They look at alternative systems, make sure the inspectors are up to date on
Where is
inspecting.
this held?
We have different sites in town that they'll go to, and then there's a classroom portion too at the library that we're going to have.
Mhm.
And when is the date of this?
It's actually April 9th and 10th, tomorrow and Wednesday. So these are for, like I said, licensed Title V inspectors in the state. Some from Raleigh, some from surrounding towns. And like I said, throughout the years, different towns have sponsored different events, so we sponsored one a few years ago as well.
Are you,
We are all going as well.
yeah, and
Yeah.
are you participating? Are you leading any groups or
Um,
presenting anything, or is that?
No,
is
Ed might be doing a part of a presentation, but they do have other speakers and people that are going to be presenting and doing things, so.
Good.
And it's 2 days,
2 days, yeah.
okay?
Like I said, just a little, this is for the whole Northeast region. Like I said, every town tries to sponsor one when they can.
Yep.
And,
How many participants do you usually get?
I want to say 20 to 25. I'm not sure the exact number, but it's, last I heard, they had over 20 that signed up, so.
Good.
Okay. Well, are there any other items
Not for me.
from the board? How about you, Frank? Are you
No, that pretty much.
keeping your head above water?
Yeah, pretty much covers everything.
Good.
Well, so you make sure you connect with
Yeah.
the mosquito control people,
Mhm.
and we get going on those procedures, so that we want to get that in place before May sometime.
Yeah, like I said, as Jack was saying, they're still working on the plans, doing some
Yeah.
fine tuning. And once we do get the drafts, we'll
Yeah.
of course get them over to you, you can review them. If you want any changes, we send it back, we'll make the changes until. But like I said, even after you okay it, you can change it throughout the year if something's not working.
Yeah, but we want clear communication starting
Right,
in May,
right away. Mhm.
so that,
Right. I'm just saying if something that we put in there, find out it's not working as well as we thought it was, we can always change
You
it.
just need a good response time.
Right.
yeah, and I think they're getting better.
important.
I remember last year, I had a complaint that he didn't return a phone call that I had put into him on a Friday night.
Okay.
And the newspaper was calling me for an answer that night and all weekend, but I didn't have the input from him. And he and I had a discussion about that, and he was much better last year.
Mhm.
And so the communications are working much better.
Yeah, he's called us on Saturday, Sunday. I mean, he's very
Yeah,
good about it.
very good about
Whenever
it.
he finds something out, weekend nights, it doesn't matter, he calls and
Mm.
he tries his best to get in touch with somebody. to-
Good.
To relay messages, so, yeah.
Well, would someone like to make a motion to end this meeting?
We hate to.
Hope I can get the year right.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Joe.
19 what?
Yeah, I know. I can't keep a straight face. Susan, go ahead, I'll try to
All right,
second it.
I move we adjourn the meeting of April 8th, 2013.
Second,
At
Melcher.
8:16.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.